another great day, I have to say.
Well, I'm imagining those sandflies eating my feet, to be honest.
If I'd had enough time, I would have found something, bought something, found something, planted it, and just had him on.
Now Stu wants a cricket, and somebody has an eye for attention to detail. John Steele spent 2.5 hours hanging from the church steeple, but I suspect it's quite a technical skill keeping the horse in check. Welcome to the channel. That's Harry, our camper van, and that's me, Jane, and here's Stu, and we love to share with you our van life adventures. First, like every morning in Harry, it's time to put the bed up, and I must say we have it down to a fine art.
We got 1 week to go. It's Friday.
Yeah.
We're catching the ferry in a week's time, so
Which is a shock to Stu yesterday when he said 2 weeks. I was like, oh dear.
So we'll probably just do around Cherbourg for a few days, and then we might go into Brittany. I don't think we'll do much of Brittany, unfortunately, but that means we're going to come back. I had a broken sleep because I was probably awake from 3:30 till 5:30 then, actually.
Yeah, I had broken sleep, but I went back.
Yeah, I don't go back. That's my
normally you do though, don't you? When you wake up in the van,
I have done.
normally
Yeah, I have done. It's just for some reason. I think it's because I was just aware that there was going to be more noise and all that. So because I'd read up on the notes on Park for Night, because it's Park for Night stop, and I think most of them were 5 stars, apart from one which was 2 stars, which was a bit weird because everything else was 5 stars. And it was only because they got woken at 4 o'clock in the morning, because obviously it's all tide dependent. So they can only go to the Oyster Farms at low tide, and low tide at the moment is around about 3 o'clock in the morning. So we half expected to be disturbed in the early hours. In a way, I was waiting for it, so I kept waking up waiting to be disturbed. And to be honest, I heard a few tractors around about 4 or 5 o'clock. But it didn't bother me. It was actually added to the ambience of the place.
I liked it. Every time I went past, I was looking out the window.
Yeah. So I looked up as to, what's the life cycle of oyster farming, as you do.
This is what you do when you're sat in the van.
And apparently what they do is they take mother oysters, whatever it is, that spawn oysters. So they farm small oysters away. They then put, and there's a couple of methods they can do, the raised above the seabed or dangling down on ropes, but this they do, by the looks of it, raised above. And what they do, they put the, if you like, the baby oysters into the bags, and then they put the bags on shelving effectively that's raised above the seabed, so when the water comes in and out, it's feeding them, because it's all a passing feed that they get into. And then obviously I guess when they get big enough they harvest them, and that's and go into the top restaurants in France and Paris and London, I'm sure. Just to connect.
Our first destination is the nearby Carrefour supermarket before heading towards another bucket list location, Sainte-Mere-Eglise. I'm on island spotting duties, and somebody has an eye for attention to detail. This is another D-Day story that resonated with Stu, and is one of the many missions that the airborne divisions were tasked to carry out in advance of the beach landings. We've parked at the outskirts of the town and we make our way initially to the Airborne Museum that is just off the main square in the centre.
Two, please. Thank you, Monsieur.
1986. Alors, visite libre au mois d'avril.
And once you've booked in, a tablet device guides you around. And once we'd sorted out how it worked, we found it really useful. The Allied forces of the 82nd and the 101st Airborne Divisions landed around Sainte-Mere-Eglise on 5th of June 1944. Sainte-Mere-Eglise was a strategic point connecting Cherbourg to Paris. Between the main buildings that house the exhibitions, we take a look at various larger military artefacts.
M4 Sherman tank.
And it took a bit to work out how to handle the tablet and camera at the same time. The first building houses a Waco glider, which is a smaller glider compared to the Horsa glider that we saw at Pegasus Museum. Various personal artefacts are on display, along with personal communications that starts to set the scene of those that have a connection to this town. The next building is the C-47 building. The exhibits are well lit and is laid out in places to make you feel as if you're going on the mission. We enter the dummy briefing room and get this hologram that's overviewing the mission to take this strategic town.
Now, I'm sure you're all anxious to get started after working with maps and models for weeks. Now, it's time for you to know what your true mission is. You also have a cricket, similar to the one I'm holding right here. If you are alone in the middle of the night, pressing and releasing this blade will make a clicking sound. You will hear 2 clickety-clacks in reply. This distinctive sound will allow you to meet up together.
Now Stu wants a cricket. Dummy parachutists were dropped to cause confusion among the German soldiers. The third building takes you on the mission itself. Although the footage is a little dark, you enter this mock glider. And then go out the other side as if you're exiting the plane above the French landscape. And I have to say, it was really well done. With various small screens, you get a sense of what the paratroopers were landing into. We find a cafe nearby overlooking the square that was the backdrop to the extraordinary night of the 5th and the early hours of the 6th of June. During the Normandy invasion, 30 paratroopers landed in the town centre. One amazing story was that of John Steele of the 82nd Division, who was actually hit by shrapnel shortly after he began his descent, and he landed on the church tower around 4 a.m. and beneath him the battle was raging, and fellow paratroopers were being shot in the air by the Germans. John Steele spent 2.5 hours hanging from the church steeple. After trying to cut himself free with a knife, he dropped his gun and he decided to play dead to avoid becoming a target for the Germans. The incident was portrayed in the movie The Longest Day by actor Red Buttons. He was finally cut free by a soldier named Rudolph May. His wounds were treated and he was taken prisoner by the Germans. Remarkably, John Steele managed to escape 3 days later. He later participated in the liberation of the Netherlands at the Battle of the Bulge near Reims. John returned several times to Sainte-Mere-Eglise to attend commemorations of the 1944 Allied landings. Unfortunately, he died of throat cancer in 1969 at the age of 57. And as we head back, this unique custom truck caught our eye.
She's be coming in possibly in the wing with this bloody clicker.
Come on.
God. It says don't play with, it says please don't click it in the shop, and the first thing I did was pick it up and click it because I hadn't read the sign, in fairness. But now we're out and
When I'm not listening to you, you can just go.
I'll be doing that all the bloody time. Click, 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 click. Clear.
So that was the Airborne Museum at Sainte-Mere-Eglise, which was quite a strategic location as part of D-Day. They needed to capture that to allow the forces from Utah and Omaha to meet up, but also to stop the German troops getting back up to Cherbourg. Divisions were parachuted in, but like many airborne missions on that day, they were splattered all over the country. So I think that was down to weather conditions.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, many of them didn't actually fire a gun.
No, it's a shame how many of them died just as they were landing.
Yeah.
One poor chap, next to the church there was a house on fire and he just landed right in it. You know, things like that, they never even got the chance to land and fight it.
And obviously they were also landing down straight on top of German troops in places, especially in the square of Sainte-Mere-Eglise in the centre of the village there. And obviously with the fire that illuminated the skies actually helped the Germans identify them coming down. And I think they had an MG42, I think, around the church area, and they were just shooting up into the sky as they were coming down. So there's lots of personal stories. Treated myself to a plaque. It's going to go at my workshop. So that was it's a depiction of all the. I was looking for a plaque for the workshop door I've got. Oh, it's a pretty village as well. So we walked around the little church there. You know, that's historic in its own right.
And the church at the heart dates back to 1080, and we managed to take a look around.
So we've seen lots of museums on this trip, but that was one of the better ones, don't you say?
Yeah,
It didn't look as big from the outside.
Pegasus and this one in particular have been really good. If you're going to do this sort of trip, definitely go to Pegasus, definitely go to this one. We've decided to go to a lot because we're only going to come to this area once, and we're both really interested in World War II, but especially now World War One as well. So for us, it's like a one-off.
We decide to head to Utah Beach, which is our 5th and last of the D-Day beaches.
And I'm pleased to report that Andre the Azalea, or Andrew as I like to call him, is thriving and he's going to make it back to the UK. Okay.
What's going on? Traffic seems a little bit weird.
So they've had height barriers. I don't know. That's a very interesting thing.
We park next to this really cool looking camper van that dwarfs Harry. There is a D-Day visitor centre here as well, but we chose to go straight to the beach. This grape sculpture catches the moments the liberation of France began. They look so graceful and make it look effortless, but I suspect it's quite a technical skill keeping the horse in check. It's a lovely day, so we move up the coast a few miles to a park for night spot. Our spot for the night will be on that grassy bank on the right. Remnants of the German Atlantic Wall aren't far away, with this small bunker right by the Parkup.
So another great day, I have to say. And we've just come across along the coast further north up towards Cherbourg for about, I'm guessing about 15 kilometres. There's several spots on park for night. There's also spots I could see people are just parking up, so I presume it's certainly out of season, you'll probably be okay. And the beach, which is all part of Utah Beach, just carries on for kilometres after kilometres. And it's deserted, so...
The beach seems to be in layers with loads of shells high up on the beach. Lower down, beautiful sands make you relax, and with the tide out I get a chance to get a close-up look at the oyster bed farming. You can really see the oyster bags that are placed on these elevated racks, but as the tide comes in, filter feeds the oysters. And it's a shame that I can't eat them because I find this whole industry simply charming and sustainable.
These two blokes over here have been having a whale of a time. They've been yakking away to each other.
But have you noticed they haven't been far from the one circle?
No.
It's not as though they're going up, they're just dug in one area.
Bless him, he really wants to find something from the war to take home with him. If I'd had enough time, I would have found something, bought something, found something, planted it, and just had him on. Did you show the flies on the chip?
I showed the flies here.
Did you show them?
Well, I'm imagining those sandflies eating my feet, to be honest. And Stu keeps on looking.